Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry Chapter 8. In the last episode, it was the rescue mission. The rescue unit went to the clinic and yeah, they were able to successfully rescue both Tomotake and Satoshi. And we also got to see the state that Satoshi is in, or at least get it described to us, which, yeah, it's about exactly what I was thinking. Either that or he was going to be in like an insane man's room, whatever those are called, with all the white padding. But nah, I think it's more realistic for him to just be, strapped down and IV'd, and that's exactly how he was. But yeah, through a lot of crazy events, they were able to rescue those two individuals. And having Tomotake back on our side is good, but now we have a problem. As we do have more people heading over to face off against the decoy unit with Keiichi and the gang, including Okanogi and Takano. Akasaka is the one that could really take down our big enemies here, but we also need, or did I say Tomotake? Akasaka. Akasaka is the one that could take him down. Tomotake is who we need to get in contact with Tokyo in order to get the Bloodhounds. So a little bit of an interesting situation that we find ourselves in, but nonetheless, excited to see where things will go. Takano didn't have enough stamina to walk around in the mountains. She was running out of breath, but even so, she continued to scream at the mountain dogs on the radio. She wasn't using an intercom like the mountain dogs were. Instead, she was using the communication unit on the back of one of the dogs, so we constantly had to listen to her yelling.
どいつもこいつも頼りないったらありゃしない。それでも特殊部隊なの？天下の山犬はどうしたというのよ。
Takano bit her lower lip and squeezed her left arm with her nail. Her arms had nail marks all over them. Yeah, stress will do that to you. She was holding her grandfather's research scrapbook in her left hand. Even Takano didn't even know why she was holding it. Maybe she grabbed it unconsciously because she wanted her grandfather to comfort her. The mountain dogs had already suffered devastating damage. They had to walk around in an area they weren't familiar with, and they wasted their energy on the multitude of traps that had been set. Although they were as tough as can be, they were getting exhausted.
ウグイス1よりウグイス13。用心しろ。お前の左翼が沈黙した。今度はお前が狙われるぞ。
ふざけるなよ。なんだってんだよ。俺かよ、畜生。
He panicked. The same thing kept happening. His team members had been going down one at a time, starting from the left flank. He was next. Did that mean the enemy was coming from his 9 o'clock? No, those demons didn't think normally. On this mountain, being aware of 360 degrees around yourself wasn't enough. Even being cautious of the ground below your feet and sky above your head wasn't enough. Where are they fucking coming from? Those bastards, come here, come the fuck at me. Nightingale 13 held his taser in front of him as he looked around timidly. And this taser could have been a powerful weapon, but it was far more effectively used indoors. There we go. On this mountain, it was almost worthless. Nightingale 13 heard a noise behind him from a bush. He thought he saw something, so he fired his taser. The electrodes flew out into the bush. Did he just imagine it? He felt a tug on his taser. The cord from the taser was stuck in the bush, so he couldn't rewind it. If it wasn't useless before, it had certainly become that way. Then he heard a noise behind him again, and this time, he saw someone coming at him. But his weapon was useless. The newcomer growled at him. That is growling, apparently. That was all it took. Because he was so scared, he didn't think. That was exactly what Sotoko expected, and Sotoko, who was up there in the tree, dropped a metal bucket on his head. It landed perfectly. The bucket had some drawings on it. What were they? They were drawings of strange unknown creatures. They somehow resembled those strange creatures you'd see on educational TV programs. As Rena jumped out from another bush, he hit the bucket with a stick. No, maybe it should be described as a strike instead of a hit. The man flew backwards. Keiichi was ready for him. The stance he was in looked a bit like... that's it. He looked like a batter in a batter's box. He was on one foot. That was the legendary one-foot swing created by that one world-famous baseball player. Yeah, you know, that guy. Destructive force can't be measured from just one direction. It's a function of both speeds added together. Both Keiichi's strike and the speed of his opponent created a truly amazing destructive force. With an exhilarating and magnificent sound, the mountain dog flew into the air in the opposite direction. Then he rolled down onto the ground and stopped. There, Rika awaited him. It was almost as though they calculated that he would end up there. Rika patted the bucket happily. This comforting moment for Nightingale 13 only lasted for a second. Mion shot her taser at his butt. Nightingale 13 jerked for a moment and then went limp. Keiichi and Rena jumped on him and tied his hands behind his back with wire. Hanyu and Suriko high-fived. While Keiichi and Rena tied Nightingale 13 up, Rika tried to sense something in the air. Rika reported, to Mion. She was a bit like a radar. Mion didn't even care about the guy they had just knocked out. She was already trying to figure out their next move while looking at Suriko's map and using the info that Rika gave her. Everyone eagerly awaited Mion's next order. Mion was a great leader. She had both leadership skills and tactical ability, but more than anything else, she was great at encouraging people's spirits. There are no cowardly soldiers under a brave general. And brave soldiers fight like a million men under Mion's command. Nobody could stop Mion and her club members. Both Mion and Okanogi's original estimates were too low. Now Okanogi was thinking something else. Before they started the siege, he likened one of them to a well-trained platoon. But that didn't fit anymore. They were on par with an elite armored division. Foot soldiers couldn't beat an armored division. What Okanogi had was just a company. There was the air support or a bombardment from a warship or an artillery base. Okanogi needed someone to pump the mountain full of holes. If he couldn't have that, he needed a submarine to fire a nuclear weapon. If he couldn't have that, he wanted a retreat. Okanogi no longer doubted it. The enemy commander was a genius. Under a mighty commander, all soldiers become heroes. He wanted to see the face of the commander, or at least he wanted to know their name. But then Okanogi remembered that demons used to live in Hinamizawa. He also realized the commander had to be a demon.
ウグイス13沈黙
大鳥4沈黙こちらひばり10子供の笑い声が聞こえる包囲された頼む助けてくれひばり10退却しろ退却しろ 退却ってどっちにだよ。大鳥ないんだ。敵の一人を発見、追跡している。
大鳥ないどこにいるんだ。所在地がわからない。周辺の状況を送られたし。
霧が出てる。寒い。
What the fuck? What's happening?
ここは河原。
大鳥ない地図上ありえない。落ち着いて状況を確認しろ。
そんな河原の向こうに死んだ姉ちゃんが。
大鳥ない大鳥ない応答しろ。大鳥ない沈黙。
無理だ。奴らはこの山の鬼だ。俺は知ってる。これは鬼隠しなんだ。俺たちは全員この山で消されちまうんだ。
バカなことを口走るのはやめろ。各班長は再点呼で状況把握と指揮高揚に努めろ。敵は悪魔なんかじゃない。ただのクソガキだ。ビビるな。格の違いを見せてやれ。
Now that's a laugh right there.
聞こえる。誰のインカムから聞こえてるんだ。俺じゃない。俺じゃない。
クマだ。
大鳥3だ。ここには野生のクマがいるのか。聞いていない。大鳥1、一度撤退し下記の武装の検討を。
バカ言うんじゃねえ。いくら矢口三家ったって野生のクマがいるはずねえだろう。連中のハッタリだ。乗せられるな。
Okay, how can they be fooled? How can they pretend to be a bear?
人の身に過ぎたるを知らぬ愚かなる人間たちよ。汚すことを許されぬ聖地を踏み荒らす罪を知るがいい。我に感謝せよ。聖地を汚した罪をあがなう機会を与えしことを感謝せよ。
ちくしょう。誰かのインカムを奪ってやがるんだ。敵の指揮減退戦術に乗るな。
恐れを知ることかなわぬよかろう。汝らがその身でしか知ることができないというなら、我が
ウグイスワンだ。光栄が来ていない。バカな。どこへ行った。応答しろ。
哀れなウグイスが一羽踏み込むこと許されぬ地に迷い込む。そんなにも知りたいか。鬼の世を知りたいか。告げよ。人の世に別れよ。我が忠告に耳を重ぬ具を今より知れ。
誰の悲鳴だ今のは。ウグイス天候を取れ。
またやられた。誰が沈黙した。それより本部、俺の左肩には誰かいるんだよな。俺は孤立してるんじゃないよな。
まだ聞きたいか。痛みを伴う声が。
They're doing a good job of fooling these guys. Destroy their morale.
なんだよ今の音。何がひしゃげたらあんな音になるんだよ。
俺昔電車の飛び込みを見たことある。あん時と同じだ。全身がひしゃげる音だ。
嫌だ。そんな死に方ごめんだ。死にたくねえ。死にたくねえ。やめてくれ山の神様。俺も好きでやってるわけじゃねえんだ。給料もらってやってるだけなんだ。
ウグイスワンより本部。ダメだ。士気の高揚は困難。隊員の脱落と士気低下は深刻。これ以上の戦線維持は困難。損害が増えるだけだ。
だから落ち着けウグイスワン。他の隊員は野戦の素人ばかりじゃねえか。お前はあの地獄の卒業生だろうが。そのお前が混乱してどうするんだ。落ち着け。お前が範を示せ。
Yeah, man, this is nothing. Come on.
本部、ウグイスワンが応答しない。そんな、あの人がやられるなんてダメだ。やっぱり悪魔だ。
ダメだ。敵は心理戦までこなしやがるのか。ガキどものくせにプロの不正規戦部隊に指揮減退戦術まで仕掛けやがるというのか。
Radios are usually helpful communication tools, but in this case they backfired. The club members took an intercom from the mountain dog they knocked out and used it to corner the other members psychologically. It worked even more effectively because they were in enemy territory and were unfamiliar with the terrain. The best solution would be to make everyone stop using the intercom, but that would give the enemy more chances to attack them individually. Okanogi was growing fearful of the club members, as he still hadn't grasped their true identities. However, Takano still hadn't recognized how serious the situation was. She kept yelling at the mountain dogs to get their act together. Okanogi could tell that she was exactly the type of commander who would only command to attack and let her men die. But Takano's reckless orders were working in a way. Although the club members were winning, their area of operation was getting smaller. The club members were trying to lure their enemies to one trap area after another. In other words, they were defeating the mountain dogs by allowing them to come into their territory. The mountain dogs were about to be annihilated, but the curtains were closing on the club members' theater too. Okanogi realized his enemies were trying to finish this battle in a hurry. If the mountain dogs fell back, everything they'd done would be for nothing. He didn't want to, but he had to follow the princess's order. Okanogi figured he was finally about to get his enemies. Hanyu and Keiichi continued to act over the commandeered radio.
はあ、羽生ちゃんすごいよ。本当の神様みたいだった。
Yeah.
っていうかすごいね羽生。あのドスは波の人間にはちょいと無理だよ。だって神様なのですから。ニパー。あんあんあん。それを言ったら圭一もすごいのです。鶏の首を絞めたみたいなすごい悲鳴を出してましたです。
It's like he's experienced death before. You know, a few times and all.
こんなの圭一さんには朝飯前ですわよ。何しろ我が部の通り名は口先の魔術師でございますもの。
へへへ、相手が人で耳がついてる限り誰だろうと俺様の圭一マジックで思いのままに操ってやるぜ。
You should become a voice actor. I bet you'd be famous.
ニパー。
Well, yeah.
聞こえる？
I was gonna say, like, well, you know, kind of already is, but whatever.
私は高野よ。三等陸佐よ。あんたたちの最上位の上司よ。聞きなさい。鬼もいないし神様もいないわ。もしいるなら戦いなさい。神などその座から引きずり下ろしてやるのよ。ヒバリとウグイスは合流して戦力を立て直しなさい。大鳥は白鷺の残存と合流。敵は山頂付近の営林署の資材小屋あたりを本拠地にしている模様。交渉を取られてるわ。こちらの動きが筒抜けのはず。奇襲はあって当たり前よ。差し違えてでも倒しなさい。
サンサ、武装に戻る許可を。奴らを制圧するにはテーサーでは無理です。
許可できるわけないでしょう。私たちは今奴らを完全に包囲して追い詰めているのよ。ここで引けば取り逃がすわよ。私たちはあいつらの首に両手をかけてる。あとは締めるだけなのよ。
At the same time, Okanogi received another radio call. Using that line meant his caller didn't want Takano to hear the conversation. Okanogi understood the meaning of that, so he walked away from Takano and answered quietly.
指揮者より大鳥は緊急事態です。診療所研究区画が襲撃を受けたようです。エントランス区画への侵入者警報を受信しましたがすぐに解除されました。ご法事の手続きによらない解除です。状況の確認を求めていますが無線に応じません。現在研究区画の武装保安隊も含め全員が沈黙。
Okanogi understood everything. He had been fooled. He suspected a diversion, and yep, that's exactly what it was. But he had never thought that the heavily armed security unit of the Mountain Dogs could be bested. If the enemies were soldiers in camouflage, then he wouldn't have been fooled. He underestimated them because he thought they were kids. But now he really understood. He understood the reason why no adults had showed up in this battle on the mountain.
わかった。そいつは東京の各校に伝えたか？
まだです。連絡しますか？
連絡しろ。富武は奪還され脱出。村境で封鎖線を張らせてるが、 武装保安隊を秒殺した連中だ。RPG 一機では難しいだろう。
封鎖線に応援を送りますか。
バカ。そんな余剰人員があったらお姫様が突撃させてるぜ。今手が空いてるのはむしろお前くらいだ。封鎖線に連絡、車両の強行突破に備えろと伝えろ。
了解。
Poor guy.
了解。警戒を厳にする。各自聞け。診療所が襲撃され捕虜を奪われたとの連絡が入った。敵はおそらく車両にて強行突破を試みるものと思われる。 RPG を準備。他は一斉射撃で蜂の巣にしろ。射殺許可は出ているぞ。
One of the mountain dogs nodded and opened a narrow case in the trunk of the van. In that case was a powerful anti-tank weapon designated RPG-7. This was a weapon that many said changed the history of modern warfare. After all, this terrifying weapon had a firing range over several hundred meters, and it was capable of burying most tanks in existence. The dawn of this weapon meant that we were now in an age where a lone foot soldier possessed the firepower to destroy a tank. It was capable of reshaping the history of warfare. That was the RPG-7. Each of the other 4 members had an MP5, the weapon used to destroy the tire on Idie's car. There was no question that the blockade team was well armed. They waited in the van until the enemy vehicle showed up. Once they saw a suspicious vehicle, they were planning to stop it by moving into the middle of the road. They intended to destroy that vehicle by firing all at once. They all watched very carefully for suspicious vehicles coming from Hinamizawa. This was the only road that connected Hinamizawa to Okinomiya. It would take more than half a day to get there, or to get to there if they used a different route, Their blockade was where the gravel road changed to a paved road. It was what people called the village border, and was their last chance to stop anyone from leaving. Hinamizawa was at a higher elevation from that point, so the vehicle would be coming downhill. They were probably expecting a barricade, as well as heavy resistance from the mountain dogs. If they wanted to pass this point, the only way would be by force. They could start a gunfight, but that would take too much time. Since they didn't want to waste any, they should avoid unnecessary conflict. Grumble. Someone's stomach growled, but nobody made fun of it. That was understandable, since all the members were getting ready for a battle. Nobody even wanted to laugh. They looked at the clock. It was almost noon. Of course they'd be getting hungry. At that time, they heard a noise coming from the direction of Hinamizawa. Obviously, the car was going very fast. The van moved to the middle of the road and stopped there. Some of them hid behind the van, and some hid in bushes on the side of the road. They pointed their guns at the suspicious vehicle coming towards them. The car must have been going very fast, but this was a straight road. No matter how fast it was going, it couldn't escape. That car happened to belong to Kasai. The shining black paint and the sound of the engine made it clear that it was a very nice car. The RPG-7 fires unguided rockets. Therefore, hitting a quick-moving target is extremely difficult. In this case, however, their target was straight ahead. If the car tried to swerve suddenly, it'd flip. If that was the case, it wasn't necessary to shoot directly at it. Besides, according to what Kasai said, its power can easily flip a car without a direct hit. Even if there was only one chance to fire, the mountain dogs were definitely in an advantageous position.
Tomotake さん、不審なワゴンが路上を封鎖してます。伏せてください。注意して、向こうのワゴンの鼻先に当てるようにするんだ。分かってます。一度経験してますので、コツは分かってますよ。
The mountain dogs aimed at the vehicle. It was coming right for them.
まだまだ引き寄せろ。距離100未満まで引き寄せろ。
分かってる。即挙してろ。
The mountain dogs in the bushes laid in wait, ready to fire. The rocket on the tip glinted eerily, like it was waiting for its prey.
距離200、150。攻撃用意。
The soldier put his finger on the trigger of the RPG-7.
赤坂さん、衝撃に備えてください。
距離100。撃て！
Huh? What happened? Didn't the RPG-7 fire? That was when the one measuring the distance next to the shooter noticed something. The shooter's shoulder had been hit, and he was tumbling to the ground.
スナイパー銃声はなかった。距離400以上だ。そんなのどうでもいい。撃て撃て撃て撃て
Only the regular guns could stop the car now. The other mountain dogs fired all at once. But immediately they realized something. The car had been hit by a nail of bullets at close range. Any normal car would have been on fire in short order. But there was nothing. This wasn't a normal car.
そりゃそうです。園崎家御用達の防弾リムジンですから。葛西 RPG を観測手が拾った。撃たせるな。
この距離で外すとでも。
Shion and Kasai were far beyond that straight road. They were in the enemy's blind spot on the other side of the hill on top of an abandoned car. Shion was on her knees checking the mountain dog's movements with a pair of military-grade high-power binoculars. Kasai was lying on top of the car with a sniper rifle in his hands. Shion figured this would be where the mountain dogs would place their ambush, so the only way for them to beat the dogs was to snipe at them. Both Shion and Kasai took sniping lessons in the US during the dam conflict. Kasai was now aiming at the man who picked up the RPG and was trying to take position with it. Again, the RPG wasn't fired and was down on the ground. The two who tried to shoot were both groaning and clutching at their wounds. They were both shot in the shoulder. The wounds wouldn't kill them, but they definitely couldn't fire that rocket. The car had arrived. The mountain dog screamed and dove out of its way. Akasaka must have been used to driving in this kind of situation. He hit the nose of the van just right and broke through the blockade. The van was hurled away and spun in a circle. As the mountain dogs tried to get back in the van, Shion and Kasai shot at them.
銃声が完全に着弾より遅れてるぞ。超長距離狙撃だ。狙撃教練を完全に終了してるベテラン狙撃手だぞ。あと、それと同格のベテラン観測手がペアだ。こっちの動きが丸見えらしいぞ。狙いが正確すぎる。
The scope on a sniper rifle is one specifically made for sniping. Therefore, its field of vision is so narrow that the sniper is unable to see their surroundings well. That's why it's always necessary to pair up with a spotter. A spotter uses powerful binoculars to probe the situation and communicate information to the sniper. Snipers can't do their job alone. Their potential is unleashed only when paired up with a spotter equally as skilled. They tried to stand up and climb into the van, but the ultra-velocity rifle bullets pinned them down. The bullets ripped through the air, traveling faster than the speed of sound. The noise those bullets created was nothing like the sound from a normal gun. It almost sounded like the Grim Reaper himself swinging down his scythe. Furthermore, they could see the mountain dogs, and the dogs couldn't see them. Only those who actually had experience being sniped at could understand this fear.
ダメだ。俺たちはいい。お前たちだけでも追え。
わかった。俺たちだけで追撃する。
There was a driver and one mountain dog in the van. They had to leave, otherwise it would be too late. The driver made a snap judgment and slammed on the gas pedal.
どうですか？来てるよ。運転がうまいね。あんなワゴン車なのに追い上げてくるよ。それは参りました。応戦を頼みます。任せて。
Tomotake opened a window near one of the back seats and leaned out. Hot air blew into the car. Though the car was jolting up and down on the bumpy road, he checked the mechanism of his gun calmly. He did it naturally, as though examining his favorite camera. The gun had been taken from one of the security guards in the basement. One of the dogs in the van held the same gun in his hands. Their weapons were evenly matched. The road was no longer straight. It curved like a snake. There were some bumps and sharp curves, which made things in the car fly all over. A gunfight in this situation would be extremely difficult. Tomotake realized he'd run empty in no time if he wasted bullets, so instead of firing recklessly, he carefully waited for the right distance. And in doing so, he tried to convince his enemy they were still out of range to make them close the gap. On the other hand, the mountain dog couldn't take it any longer. He fired, wasting his bullets on the bumpy road. some of those bullets hit the body of Kasai's car, making a nasty metallic noise.
富武さん、身を乗り出していては危険です。
大丈夫。あんな下手くそじゃ当たらないよ。僕の生徒だったらゼロからやり直しだな。このような状況下では動きを読むんだ。挙動を予測し、弾幕で予測射撃をするんだ。当てようと思わない。弾幕に突っ込ませるようにするんだ。こういう風にね。
Tomotake fired for the first time after cautiously waiting for the perfect moment. Those who understood guns would be fascinated with his shooting form. His stance was so firm he didn't lose control, even in the violent burst of shots. Yet there was no unnecessary tension, and just enough slack. Despite being in such an anomalous position as leaning out from a car, Tomotake was shooting very precisely. It was nothing like what the Mountain Dogs did earlier. He shot at just the right time, so his bullet went where it was supposed to go. It was hard to believe that they were using the same gun. Nasty metallic sounds etched themselves into the body of the van, which made the Mountain Dogs realize just how good Tomotake was.
くそ、あいつめちゃくちゃ射撃がうまいぞ。ただの東京の事務屋じゃねえのかよ。
俺、噂に聞いたことあるんだ。富武に行って事故で事務屋に移ったらしいが、教官時代は不正規戦部隊の射撃教官だったと聞いたぞ。
なんだよそれ。ってことはあいつ。
Tomotake started to aim for the driver's seat to pressure them to give up. The Mountain Dogs could tell they were in a predicament. Tomotake was capable of hitting his targets easily even on such a bad road. Furthermore, they were in a bulletproof limousine, while the Mountain Dogs were in a regular van, the van which, incidentally, was facing the limousine in pursuit. All his shots had just been warning ones. Unless the Mountain Dogs called off the chase, Tomotake would start shooting at them soon enough. They had no chance of winning.
大鳥湾より追跡車両、封鎖線が突破されたならそれ以上はもういい。深追いするな。富武は射撃の名手だぞ。死に急ぐな。
どうする？行かせていいのか？
了解。こちら追跡車両、追跡を断念。帰投する。
諦めたようだね。向こうは速度を落としたよ。
あれだけの銃撃戦をしたのに全く平静なままですね。相当の場数をお見受けします。
訓練の賜物さ。
Tomotake, having slid back into the car, raised his fist in victory. He was as easygoing as ever, even after a gunfight. Akasaka felt like he was finally getting to know Tomotake for the first time. Feel like I am too, goddamn. What a man.
富武にご無事でしたか。連絡が取れず心配しておりました。
Tomotake was making a call from a telephone booth outside of Okinomiya. The phone lines around there were on a different network than the one the Mountain Dogs had sabotaged. That is why he could make the call. Tomotake had called Tokyo immediately. He told Tokyo that there were some spies from the Mountain Dogs within Tokyo's research division, which is how they found out where he was. He also told them that he was captured, but that he had escaped. He told them that they were fooled by the diversion and that they were on the mountain as they spoke. While he was captured, Major Takano, the ringleader, had hinted at the existence of masterminds she was working for, etc. He explained everything that he had learned thus far.
入江機関の早急な鎮圧を。彼らはすでに地上での発砲を繰り返しており、このままでは村人に発覚するのも時間の問題です。番犬の緊急出動を強く要請します。
もしもし、調査部の岡だ。無事でよかった。番犬はすでにhinamizawa地区の南方30キロで空中待機してる。こちらも上層部に鎮圧命令を求めていたのだが、石頭どもが事なかれ主義で渋りやがってな。だが君が無事ならば話が早い。君の話はすぐにトップに説明する。許可はすぐ出るだろう。20分以内に番犬は到着する。
Hell yeah.
つい今、高野さんの逮捕命令が出たぞ。入江機関の即時制圧と山犬への武装解除命令も出た。君のおかげだぞ。でかした。
So it shouldn't be that much more, huh? Tomotake walked out of the telephone box.
話はつきましたか？
ええ、番犬部隊が鎮圧に緊急出動するそうです。すでに近くに空中待機していて、20分ほどで吸収するそうです。
どの程度に強いんですか？その番犬という連中は。
山犬が機密保持のための多目的部隊だとしたら、番犬は戦闘のみに特化した精鋭部隊です。装備も人材も比べ物になりません。おそらくあっという間でしょうね。
Akasaka looked at his watch. It was about 12:30. The Bloodhounds would arrive in about 20 minutes. Akasaka remembered how hungry he was. It was lunchtime already. If he was brave enough, he would head to a noodle shop, and by the time he was done, everything would have ended. For the mountain dogs who fought well until the last possible moment, it was ending rather too soon. They were in an area where rice fields and a residential area mix. It was the border of Okinomiya. The sun was covered by a thin layer of silver clouds, and a cool breeze was blowing. It looked like it might even rain a little. The two of them couldn't even remember how many times their lives were threatened that day. They wanted nothing more than to let the rain soak their bodies. After a while, Akasaka spoke.
どうしますか？富武さん。
どうするって何をだい？
私、Hinamizawaへ戻ろうと思っています。まだみんな、戦ってる。
そうだね。でもいいのかい？一度はくぐり抜けた視線だよ。
リカちゃんが、待ってる。まだ約束は果たし終えていません。
なら、戻ろう。僕も用事があってね。ちょうど戻ろうと思ってたんだよ。赤坂さんはヘリの旅の経験はあるかい？乗せてもらえることになってるんだ。
They watched the breeze blowing over the rice fields for a while, and then returned to the bullet-ridden car. The car started up quickly, and they drove it back the way it came. It was only noon. There was still plenty of time before the Watanagashi festival began. What a long-ass day. Clouds covered the sky, and it suddenly grew cool. It was going to rain a bit, according to Okunogi's intuition. He already knew that their enemy had broken through the blockade, but he hadn't told Takano about it. By then, it really didn't make any difference if she knew or not, and he also wanted to reach the top of the mountain. Okunogi was only thinking about one thing. He was thinking about the enemy's commander, who made the day so horrible for him. He just couldn't accept his defeat until he saw the enemy's commander face to face. God damn. The battle was already lost. They just had a princess who didn't think they had yet. With the rest of the mountain dogs fall into the traps and ambushes, Okunogi had ordered all units except his own to fall back from the front line and into the vehicles. The only ones left to go were on the very determined princess, Okunogi himself, and a handful of exhausted members of the mountain dogs who could barely walk. We're truly almost to the end here, I think. Eventually, the slope became a little more gentle. Okunogi and his companions finally arrived at the shortage shack of the Forest Service. The storage shack, by the way, not shortage. The club members were already aware that the mountain dogs had been almost totally annihilated. Both the numbers and strength of the dogs had fallen far below that of the club members. Therefore, when Okunogi saw his opponents lined up there to welcome him, he wasn't surprised. It was all the kids who'd driven the mountain dogs to destruction that entire day. They had also fought with everything they had. Though they overwhelmed us from start to finish, they had used up all their stamina and were on their last legs as well. Still, their willpower kept them standing. A will born of the victor's honor, which God granted only to the winners.
いたわ。あるよ。おころぎ、捕らえさせなさい。
サンサよくもこんなざまの我々をこき使えるもんです。
何？
Yeah, you've totally lost sight of the actual situation here.
私に逆らう気なの？
まさか逆らう気なんか最初からありませんやね。
Okanogi removed his communication unit, his taser, and all the heavy equipment he had been carrying. Then he unbuttoned his shirt and told his men to stay put as he stepped forward. He strode forward about half of the distance toward the club members.
山犬の大鳥ワンコとおこのぎだ。お前らのリーダーに敬意を表する。名前を聞かせてくれ。
The club members looked at each other. One of them was a girl taller than the others. She couldn't be that old. But her hawk-like eyes, goddamn, were as sharp as a veteran soldier's. Okanogi didn't know her circumstances, but only those whose lives were threatened on a daily basis had eyes like that.
部長、園崎美音。
The girl stepped forward.
いくつだ？いや、年齢なんてどうでもいい。朝からの沖宮署での騒ぎからこの山での戦いまで、すべてお前の指揮なのか？
The girl didn't answer, but her silence confirmed it more strongly than anything she could have said.
この戦はお前らの勝ちだ。まだ負けてねえと思ってるのはうちのお姫様だけさ。もう今さらどうにもならねえ。富武は封鎖線を突破。沖宮にすでに到着して、鎮圧部隊がいつここにやってくるか知らねえが、それも時間の問題だ。笑いたきゃ笑え。爪ってやつさ。
おこのぎ、何をやってるの？その女は敵のリーダーよ。倒しなさい。
お姫様が何か言ってるが気にするな。
望みは何？
お前も大将、俺も大将だ。わかるな。
Not really. I don't follow, but then again, I'm not a leader.
あいつ降参したんじゃないのか？
レナにはわかる。あの人は今日敵の指揮をしていたんだよ。そして部下がみんなやられた。だから「はいそうですか」って言って負けを認めるわけにはいかないの。
我が身を犠牲にしてしか敗軍の将は見そげないというのですか？
いいよ。あんたが納得するようにすればいい。
感謝するぜ。
Mion took a stance. Okanogi took a stance too. Although Okanogi was nothing like Akasaka, he was still a close combat specialist. Even when exhausted, there was no way Mion could defeat him. Takano thought so too. And she thought Mion was underestimating Okanogi. But Mion knew. She knew that she was the only one who could put him at ease.
行くぜ。
Okanogi, readied, launched sharp from his waist, but Mion deflected it to the side with her elbow, wrapped her arm around underneath it, wrenching it back behind him and forced it up into a hold. And then she twisted his arm even further. Okanogi was certain she was going to snap a bone. It was an excellent technique. She took his arm in one flowing motion. It was clear that Mion's self-defense techniques weren't spur of the moment. However, she didn't break Okanogi's arm, but instead threw him onto the ground. She didn't deliver the final blow, but rather chose to look down on him.
やるな。
おこのぎ、何やってるの？早く制圧しなさい。
うるせえ！黙ってみてよ！こいつは大将戦だ！
Okanogi got up quickly, took a stance once again, and then swung his arm down. But Mion avoided it effortlessly, and just like she did before, she grabbed his arm and turned it around. And they were in the same position as before. And just like what happened then, she didn't break his arm, but threw him onto the ground and looked down at him.
回転投げか。当て身を入れねえところを見ると実戦向きじゃねえな。むしろお上品に演武を見せる流派ってとこか。ちなみに腕を決めた時、下がる相手の顔面に膝が入れられるぜ。
そうなんだ。今度試してみるよ。
ミヨンってすげえ。向こうの隊長と互角に渡り合ってるぞ。
おこのぎ、武器を使いなさい。何をやってるの？
行くぞ！
He had a stronger drive this time. He tried to kick right through her from a step and a half away. Yet this time Mion stepped in to launch her own attack. jumping right towards the foot, trying hard to kick her. Mion kept herself low as she entered close range with Okanogi, shutting out his leg, trying to kick her. So of course, he went after her head. Okanogi raised his right arm to elbow her in the skull, but this time Mion rose up, using both hands to keep his arm from swinging down. Unlike the flowing motions from earlier, this was simply a contest of strength. His physique was overwhelmingly superior to hers, so she couldn't win that test of strength. But suddenly Mion let go, and allowed Okanogi's elbow to come down. And then she stepped to the side. It's another repeat of before. Okanogi's arm was held to his back, and he ended up in the same position. But what came after was different. Okanogi's face lowered as Mion lifted his arm up high, and then she swiftly brought her knee into his face. It was exactly the technique that Okanogi told her about just earlier. And once again, he was down on the ground.
そうだ、飲み込みが早いじゃねえか。おめえ、戦略、戦術、そして戦闘、すべて三拍子揃ってるぜ。おめえみてえな奴が俺の役をやるべきなんだよ。山犬みてえなクソどもの隊長をな。
ごめんだね。あんたらみたいなネクラそうな秘密部隊の隊長なんて。
Mion scoffed. Okanogi took it with a smile too. He wasn't trying to be humble. It was just his pure reaction.
そうだな。お前ほどの器なら、日本の不正規戦部隊長なんてもったいないぜ。サスでもデルタでもスペツナズでも、どこでも最高の人材になれるだろうぜ。何しろ。
サス？デルタフォース？くだらないね。そんな退屈なところじゃ、私を飼いならせやしないよ。
そうだろうな。そうだろうよ。なら聞かせてくれ。お前ほどのやつなら何の隊長を望む？
隊長なんて興味ないね。部長でいいね。
部長、英国情報部あたりってとこか。
Yeah, sure.
妥当だな。
ダメダメダメ、なってないね。あのね、私がやりたい部長はたった一つ。hinamizawa文庫の我が部の部長だけさ。罰ゲームのない戦いなんてごめんだね。口先の魔術師前原圭一、怪異モードの竜宮レナ、トラップ使いの里子に萌え落としのリカちゃん、そして期待の新人フルで羽生。これだけ揃ってなけりゃ世界のどこだろうと退屈だね。
勝てねえ。
I guess in the end, it's the old anime power of friendship deal.
勝てねえよ。
Yep, it really fucking is.
こんなやつが隊長だったんじゃ勝てるわけねえやね。
Okanogi! しっかりなさい!
Takano yelled at him, but Okanogi didn't hear it.
これでウォーミングアップはいいだろう。
That was the warm-up?
次の一撃でぶち抜いてやるぜ。当たったら死ぬぞ。覚悟しな。
キナ、あんたに似合いの最後をくれてやるよ。あんたが欲しいと思ってる決定的な最後。
よく言ってくれた。よく言ってくれたぜ。
Okanogi took about 5 steps backwards and breathed deep. His body twisted as he gathered all of his spirit into his right fist. Just as he said, his next attack would be for real. He was putting everything he had into this one final blow. Mio narrowed her eyes, preparing to parry the blow with her side. The sky began to stir. They both felt raindrops on their foreheads.
行くぜ。殺すからな。殺しに来いよ。
あんたのお祈りが済んだらいつでも来な。
That one tense moment was suddenly brought to an end. He dashed forward from a low position, just like a runner from a starting line. Then he added the twist from his body into one blow, as his right arm roared with all his power. A bolt of lightning punctuated that moment in time, burning the moment into our eyes. In that moment, Mion's stance hadn't changed at all. No, maybe she moved like lightning in the moment it struck. We had to recall the moment burned into our eyes to review the scene. Okanogi had swung with his right fist, which had enough power to shatter Mion's bones. So what if 100% of his power was directed back at him in a counterattack? When the lightning struck, Okanogi's body had been flying through the air. It was a legendary technique in Japanese martial arts, passed down in Judo and Aikido, the air throw. Is that how you pronounce that? I'm pretty sure. It looks as if one is being thrown without his opponent even touching him. A miraculous technique that occurs at lightning speed. All of the techniques Mion possessed, it was the most sublime, advanced technique she could administer on the defeated General Okanogi. The feeling of freedom while flying in the air is more memorable than the impact of hitting the ground, supposedly. When Okanogi hit the ground behind Mion, a heavy rain suddenly began to fall. And just as it did, a massive helicopter appeared from the other side of the mountain. The helicopter's rotors stirred up the air and blew away the raindrops like in a tornado. The rotors sounded much like a tornado, too. A rope uncoiled from the rear of the helicopter and soldiers came sliding down it one after another. The onlookers were stunned for a moment before realizing what they were seeing. It was the Bloodhounds. The Bloodhounds that Tomotake had called in. Having realized how bad the situation had become, Okanogi returned to the other members of the Mountain Dogs. Nothing was going their way anymore. The Mountain Dogs ran down the slope and disappeared into the woods. They dragged Takano with them, who couldn't understand what was going on. A voice echoed from a speaker attached to another helicopter circling around the mountain.
入江機関の全職員に次ぐ本日1蓋302入江機関の全権限は凍結され、また同時刻上級司令部は入江機関全職員の武装解除を命じた。山犬中隊全隊員は直ちに武装解除し、入江診療所裏駐車場もしくは山頂資材置き場に集合せよ。これに応じない場合、国内法及び自衛隊法に基づき厳正に対処することをここに通告する。
Bloodhound members continued to slide down the rope from the helicopter. Even at a glance, they were very different from the Mountain Dogs. They were armed more heavily and the guns they had were much larger. Such things clearly differentiated the two units.
これで私たちの勝ちですの？わかりませんのです。
Yeah, me neither.
僕も初めてのことなので、勝ったのかわからないのです。
Sadako and Rika sat down and hugged each other. They were both soaked in rain, but they still sat down in the mud. Mion stood solemnly in the rain as the leader of the winning team. The Mountain Dogs had abandoned the field. They all ran away with their tails between their legs. Keiichi and Rena ran over to Mion.
ミオン、
みーちゃん、終わったね。
ああ、これで部活は終わりさ。
リカちゃんも無事、みんなも無事。みーちゃん、勝ち取れる最高の勝利を勝ち取ったんだよ。
ミオンがみんなを率いたんだ。ミオンのおかげの勝利さ。
But Mion didn't seem to be listening to Keiichi and Rena. Instead, she mumbled to herself.
私さ、部活の罰ゲームって好きなんだよね。部活ってさ、残酷だよね。仲間で戦い合ってさ。つまりそれはその子がビリだってみんなが見下すことなんだよね。
見下してなんかいねえだろ。楽しく罰ゲームをして、それでおしまいさ。
そう、罰ゲームで楽しく遊んで、それで終わり。敗戦の将の責任をさ。楽しくみんなで笑って、それでチャラにできるから好きなんだよね。負けた本人も含めて。
みんなで笑って。誰も傷つかない。みんなで楽しく笑っておしまいにできる。
おこのぎってやつは私に投げ飛ばされて叩きのめされなきゃ自分の罪がさ。そりゃさ、今日何度もヤバい目にあったよ。殺されそうに何度もなったよ。でもさ、もう終わりでしょ。ゲームセットなんだよ。なのに彼らにはチャラにする罰ゲームがないんだね。
Mio might have realized something when she threw Okanogi. Keiichi didn't think anybody else could understand that.
ミオンが何を言ってるのかわからねえよ。もう忘れろ。あいつらはもう終わりさ。
そうだね。これでもうすべて。
みんな生きてる。誰も怪我してない。今は最高のハッピーエンドを喜ぼうよ。
I don't know. Is it weird that I'm thinking that something could happen? This isn't the end, is it?
そうだな。誰もやられなかった。最高のハッピーエンドじゃねえか。
Like, based on the estimated amount of time I was told a few episodes ago, we still have time remaining. There's gotta be more. I'm worried something could happen. While they hadn't yet confirmed Shion and Kasai's safety, they were correct. This was the happy ending that they had all been fighting for. However, Mion was still thinking. She only understood the reason for that in the moment that the thunder struck. But as soon as the flash of lightning disappeared, her understanding vanished as well. All she could remember was that she noticed something very important, and that shortly after she completely forgot about it. She could only feel a great sense of loss. The Bloodhounds soon surrounded the club members. At first, they thought the club members were their enemies, but when Tomotake appeared, he explained the whole situation. The commander of the Bloodhounds appeared to beg the club members not to say a word about anything, as it was a politically sensitive incident. It was amusing to see a man like that beg while carrying all those weapons. Of course, they had no intention of talking to anyone about it. Once it had ended, it all felt like a bad dream. If on the following day someone asked them what they had been doing, they might not even remember it. This day was that unrealistic for them. So even if they were asked, they wouldn't say a word.
リカちゃん、無事でよかった。
赤坂、無事でよかったのです。
こっちも大成功だったよ。そっちもみんな無事かい？入江診療所はすでに彼らが制圧したそうだよ。山犬の隊員たちも続々と投降に応じてる。隠れていた入江先生ともう一人の少年も彼らに保護されたそうだよ。
監督も無事ですのね。よかったですわ。少年かってどなたでございましょうね。
Oh yeah, I do wonder.
富田さんか岡村さんあたりが巻き込まれて怪我でもしたのかしら。
Yeah, let's roll with that.
さとか、本当によかったのです。
Rika's smile made it clear on what she had gone through. Someone could only smile like that after a long and exhausting struggle. Sadako had no idea what that smile meant, how much time would be needed to make her understand. Still, Irie will do something about it. For certain, he will bring Sadako's Nini back home.
そうだ、さとこ。今日のお注射をしていないのではないですか？お注射をしないとダメなのです。あ、そうでしたわね。こんな時にも注射をやめちゃいけないなんて面倒な話ですこと。
Sadako seemed to have no idea that her medication was connected to the syndrome. Perhaps she was already aware, but pretended not to be. Rika vowed to herself that no matter how long it took, she was going to witness with her own eyes the moment her best friend finally parted with her tragic past.
このお注射も日に2回で助かりますわよね。以前の3回の時は本当に大変でしたわ。
Sadako also had no idea that Satoshi was involved in the development of her medication. Irie had said that Satoshi, as a specimen, had contributed much to Sadako's treatment. Even while asleep, Satoshi longed to ease the burden on Sadako. And those feelings must have influenced Sadako's medicine somehow. Sadako had to inject herself in the stomach. For privacy, she ran into the grove of trees to give herself a shot. There was no danger in her doing so. One after another, the Bloodhounds dropped down from the helicopters. Each helicopter must have carried at least 20 to 30 soldiers. There was one helicopter at the top of the mountain and 2 more halfway down the slope. Troops were pouring down from all of them, leading to the impression that the entire mountain was under the Bloodhounds' control. Nobody fired their weapons even once. The mountain dogs had no choice but to surrender. It wasn't raining hard at all. The sky should clear up after 20 or 30 minutes. It was the volatile weather typical of early summer. Sadako soon returned, and she spoke to her best friend.
リカ、羽生さんの姿が見えませんわね。さっきまで一緒にいましたのに。羽生どこ？
Yeah, wait a minute, yeah. It was stupid of me to think that Tokyo had sent more support. They're acting as if they've known of their loss for a while now. I was the only one who didn't know.
どういうことなの？状況がさっぱりわからないわよ、おこのぎ。
手詰まりってやつです。富武が呼んだ番犬が到着したんですよ。
番犬？名前は聞いたことあるけど、でも山犬と似たようなものでしょ。どうして応戦しないのよ。
ご冗談は。山犬は所詮傍聴部隊です。対して番犬は本間門の戦闘部隊ですが、花から勝ち目なんざありませんね。
The remaining 3 members looked at me in exhaustion.
大体どうして番犬が来るのよ。富武は捕まえてるのにどうして？他にスパイがいるんじゃないの？それは誰よ？
さんさ、すでに診療所が襲撃され、富武2位が奪い返されたことはご存知ないのですか？
One of the 3 spoke up timidly, but Okunogi signaled him to shut up.
そんなの聞いてないわよ。それはいつよ。どうなってるの、おこのぎ。それに村から逃げられないよう封鎖部隊というのもいるんでしょ。
They aren't even responding to me anymore. I've been left behind. I'm the only one who didn't know. I'm being left out. The members looked at Okunogi, waiting for his command. Nobody is waiting for my order. Nobody even cares about my orders.
隊長、指揮者より無線です。
One of the members handed the intercom to Okunogi.
大鳥ワンダー。
隊長、各校より最終連絡です。各校を実行せよ。
各校了解した。
指揮者を番犬が包囲中です。投降を勧告しています。いかがしますか？
指揮者、いや、太田、足立、ご苦労だったな。投降を許可する。武装解除して以後は番犬の指示に従え。
指揮者了解。
各員その場で聞け。指揮者が制圧された。すでに診療所も制圧されているだろう。我々は全てのバックアップと装備を失った。全班は壊滅。個々の隊員たちも武装解除に応じているだろう。山犬の完全敗北だ。
まだよ。なんとか東京の野村さんに連絡を取るのよ。番犬が何よ。番犬に匹敵する部隊を送り込んでくれるわ。R は生きていたのよ。終末作戦の実行は可能だわ。それをすぐに野村さんに連絡しないと。そのためにはまず東京への連絡手段を取り返すことが重要よ。こうなると村の連絡網を遮断したのが裏目に出るわね。指揮者を奪還するしかないわ。指揮者の無線で東京に連絡して応援を呼ぶのよ。幸い指揮者は今あっさり降伏してみせたから奴らも油断してるはず。おこのぎと3人も隊員がいれば十分可能よ。まだ6月19日。作戦開始は21日22日だったかしら。まだ間に合う。まだまだ間に合う。ここから巻き返すわよ、おこのぎ。すぐに指揮者の奪還を実行しなさい。なんで誰も私の言うことを聞けないの。私は3歳よ。おこのぎよりずっと偉いのよ。おこのぎの言うことは聞けて、どうして私の言うことが聞けないの。
サンサ、さっきから飛び回ってるヘリが言う通りですわ。このゲームはうちらの負けです。これ以上の往生際の悪さは互いに得になりませんね。
おこのぎまだよ。あなたも R が生きているのを見たでしょ。今日の一日がおかしくなったのは R が死んだなんて噂が流れたからよ。でも R は生きていた。今日の一日はなかったことになるのよ。緊急マニュアルはまだ生きているわ。女王感染者が生きている以上、改めて殺せばそこから48時間の緊急マニュアル執行可能な時間が。
サンサ、緊急マニュアルがどうこうって次元じゃもうないんですよ。もう東京は女王感染者とか、それが死んだら48時間とか。終末作戦は完全に失敗しました。我々のクライアントはすでに証拠の隠滅に走り回っているでしょう。我々の役目ももうおしまいですわ。山犬なんて面白い舞台を10年ほど指揮させてもらいました。貴重な経験ができましたが、それも今日でおしまいです。そしてサンサ、あんたの役割ももうおしまいです。
何よそれ。私の役割。何のことよ。
サンサ、あんたの役目はその手に持っておられるスクラップ帳を育て上げることでした。
何の話よ。
I didn't expect Okunogi to start talking about my grandfather's scrapbook.
hinamizawa症候群って病気があることは疑いません。だが女王が死ぬと48時間で村中が大パニックになるってのは見た者がいません。本当か嘘かなんて分かりゃしないんですよ。
And it was pointed out to me before in the comments, but yeah, we've seen in chapter 2 and I think also chapter 5, Rika dies and more than 48 hours definitely goes by. And there is no panic. I mean, Keiichi is losing his fucking mind, but that's just because he literally went through a traumatic experience. He's going to have terminal symptoms for sure. That's a little different. The whole village, however, was fine. Nothing really came of it. So, no. The whole 48-hour thing, as we can see here, is probably like 99% bogus.
バカなこと言わないで。ほら、書いてあるわよ。どこのページかしら。他の類似の脳内寄生虫症の症例から類推して統計的にどこよ。こんな時に限って。
I flipped through the pages of the scrapbook in a panic. I can't even remember which page I'm looking for. Okunogi slapped the scrapbook aside and it thudded. No, it landed in a muddy puddle, so it splashed onto the ground. The open pages of the scrapbook were face down in the muddy water and already turning color as they soaked up the mud. As I crouched down to pick up the scrapbook, Okunogi stepped on it. The splash of muddy water hit me in the face. I had to witness my precious scrapbook being stepped on and covered in filth.
サンサ、このスクラップに書いてあることが本当だろうとでっち上げだろうと真実だろうと虚偽だろうと。
それはどういう意味よ。
I tried to get the scrapbook from under Okunogi's foot, but I couldn't pull it out.
東京のクライアントが期待してたのはそのスクラップ帳の中身をどれだけの人間が信じてくれるかってことなんです。本当か嘘かはどうでもいい。ただ信憑性さえありゃよかったんです。
本当か嘘かどうでも。
そうです。どっちでもいいんです。でっかい研究所で偉い先生方が研究してこれこれこういう結果ですっていう専門用語だらけの難しい資料を作ってくれて中身などろくにわからねえ連中を騙せるだけの信憑性ってやつを。
嘘なんかじゃないわ。私と祖父が何年にもわたって研究してきて。足をどけなさいよ。
The scrapbook is getting soaked through. I'm trying my best so that it's not ruined, but it's no use.
女王が死んだら村は皆殺し。そういうとんでもない話をお偉方に納得させられりゃよかったんです。 hinamizawa症候群が脳みそに寄生してどうこうとか、政治的アクションに使えるかどうかにしか興味がなかった。なことはあんただって十分承知していたでしょうが。そして今や誰もこんなインチキスクラップは信じやしません。このスクラップ帳に大勢がたけた。そして負けたんですわ。山犬もこのスクラップ帳に熱く張って負けた。それだけのことですね。
インチキスクラップなんかじゃない。これは真実なのよ。全部真実。おじいちゃんが調べて、私が調べて、そして書き上げてきた真実の研究結果なのよ。だってみんな信じてくれた。だからあんな立派な研究所を作ってくれたのよ。信じてくれたからみんなそう野村さんだって。だからこそ私に声をかけてくれたのよ。この研究の進化を分かってくれるクライアントはきっと他にだっているわ。だってこの研究は人類の未来の可能性。
Okanogi got fed up and kicked me. I don't weigh much, so I fell backwards and became soaked in the muddy water. Okanogi walked over and looked down at me.
幸いなことに東京のクライアントも、そしてうちらも三叉にまだ期待している役割があるんですわ。おい。
One of the mountain dogs handed a gun to Okanogi. Okanogi checked the cylinder and then threw it over to me.
何よ。
三叉、そいつで自分の頭ぶち抜いてくれませんか？
Is that the operation that he was told to commence? I looked at the gun. I'm used to seeing guns working at the Idia Institute as I do. I was never frightened by guns before. But for the first time, I feel scared just looking at one.
よくあるやつですわ。トカゲの尻尾ってやつです。三叉、敗軍の将の責任ってやつで、そいつで自分の頭ぶち抜いてください。
そんな。
Nobody had ever told me to die before. Nobody has ever told me to kill myself.
クライアントもうちらも、三叉が死んでくれりゃ、三叉があることないことやってくれたってことで、うまーく丸く終わらせられるんです。すでに東京はその準備に入ってますんね。
バカなこと言わないで。そんなことできるわけ。
So you guys remember the end of chapter 6, which really gave away a lot of big hints. Akasaka coming to the scene, pointing out some of the things that he had researched, and also the fact that there most likely wasn't a gas leak, which was really what told us that something else really was going on here. And also the fact that we just never really heard too much about the one who initiated everything. How can you become a god if nobody knows what really happened? They're gonna shut her up. They probably got rid of her after the whole operation. There's no way they're going to allow her to let that research out into the open. So yeah, destroy it if you will, destroy the village, make sure that no research can happen again. But you won't become a god. In the end, you're nobody. So here we are. Just another part of what that could have been. I'm starting to sob. My body is shaking all over.
まあ、無理ならいいんです。今のあんたにそこまで求めるのは酷でしょう。
Okanogi pulled his gun out and pointed it at me. The other members, having realized everything will work out if I die, just looked at me coldly.
投降を説得するも、頑くなに拒否し、抵抗。銃撃戦になり、やむなく射殺。そっちが本当の筋書きなんです。自殺用の銃は、短くない時間、世話になったことへの俺なりの気遣いだったつもりです。
そんな筋書き嫌よ。嫌よ、嫌。そんなの誰が考えたのよ。嫌よ。
あんたがさっきから助けを求めたいって言っておられる東京の野村さんです。終末作戦が失敗した時に備え、ダメージコントロールを図る作戦ってのもちゃんと合わせて用意してあったんです。 野村さんの暗号名はカッコウ、そしてサンサの暗号名はヒナでしたね。カッコウが卵をどこに産むかご存知ですか？
そんな。
カッコウの卵はよその鳥の巣に産みつけられ、そこから帰ったカッコウはですね、巣から落ちた飛べないヒナは地面でのたくり、まあ普通は野犬や山犬に食われて殺されちまうってことですわ。
Oh, how perfect. How that just lines up with all the code names. I used the money I got from Uncle Koizumi to pay the mountain dogs, thinking I had gained a reliable ally. I always thought that, although Okanogi was barbaric, he was very reliable. But my nest had been taken over.
サンサ、あんたの味方なんていなかったんです。あんたは東京のクライアントが描いた絵の通り踊って、ですがその舞台も幕が降りて、あんたにステージから退場してもらおうってことになったってこと。それ、あんたの大好きなスクラップ長、そいつを左手に抱きながら右手で銃を拾ってください。
The scrapbook was finally returned to me covered in mud. I held it with both hands and cried. What a joke the entire life of Mio Takano was. Right now is when I should just go back inside that chain link fence. My shaking hands held the ice-cold gun.
弾は一発ですから慎重に。頭蓋骨は案外弾を滑らすって話ですわ。口を開けてその中に撃つのがよくあるやり方です。ほら、銃を持って構えて、そして死んでくださいな。
In the hills of the mountain, a single gunshot echoed. With that gunshot, members of the Bloodhounds rushed in. Okanogi and the other men raised their hands in surrender.
高野三佐も一緒でしたが、どうしても投降は嫌だと渋りましてね。今の発砲は三佐がこっちに銃を向けたんで撃った威嚇射撃です。
レトリバー7よりリーダー小此木2位と山犬隊員3名を逮捕。高野三佐はこのすぐ近くを逃走中の模様。足跡が南西方向へ消えているが物資が濃い。それ以上の追跡は不能。大至急応援を。高野三佐は武装している。繰り返す、高野三佐は武装している。
レトリーバーリーダーよりオール、重要手配犯の高野三佐が現在逃走中。高野三佐は武装している模様。逃走地点を中心にパトローリングで封殺せよ。
I'm running through the mountain covered in dirt and still holding the muddy scrapbook. I keep falling because of the mud, and branches and tree roots continue to torment me. I lost one of my shoes, so I decided to get rid of the other shoe too. Oh, doesn't this look a little familiar then? This isn't the first time I've had to run like this. This isn't the first time I've ran barefoot. This isn't the first time I felt such pain on the soles of my feet. This isn't the first time I've cried like this. Oh.
繰り返す、高野三佐、武装解除し投降せよ。逃げ場はない。山犬はすでに全員投降した。君に味方はいないぞ。
The helicopter above my head is calling out my name. I crawled into a hollow tree. I held my knees and hid. The last time I ran barefoot like this was a very long time ago. My feet are bloody and swollen, and I can no longer walk. I can only cry as I bite the corner of my scrapbook. Sadness and humiliation fight for dominance in my heart. When I feel sad, I cry, and when I feel humiliated, I scratch myself to calm my anger. And I still have the gun in my right hand, the one with a single bullet in it. I have to kill myself. My death is the only thing that can bring it all to an end. killing myself is the only way to go back to that day. But when I look at the scrapbook in my left hand, I'm assaulted by sadness and fear.
死にたくない死にたくないよ
Just die. Atone for your actions with your death. I recalled the look in Okanogi's eyes. I know I've committed sins. There are so many sins, too many of them. There are more sins than I can possibly atone for. But, do I have to die for them? Enter Hanyu? Where's Hanyu at? Come on. She has to pop up, right? I mean, she's not up with the gang. She must have been following her, you know, with the power of God and all that. I cried again and then noticed someone standing nearby. There we go. It's the girl whom I met when I came to Hinamizawa when the Idiot Institute was first opened. I met this girl at the shrine when I declared war on God. This girl is the god of this place. And that god looked at me and sneered, rather than sympathizing.
それでもまだ人の身を捨て神の座を求めるというのか。
ずいぶん久しぶりね。負けよ。このゲームは私の負けよ。人の身の分際で神に挑戦した。
人の子よ、まだ神の座を追い求めるのか。数々の試練をまだくぐり、それでもなお神の座を求めるのか。
冗談じゃないわ。神の座なんてもう無理じゃない。
人の子よ、聞け。今こそ神になる道を示そう。そなたの右手に持つ鉄の火で己が生に別れを告げるがいい。神の座に肉の器は不要。人にその姿を認められようなどと思ってはならぬ。神とは孤独な存在。それに好んでなりたがる愚かな人の子よ。それでもなお神の座を目指すというのか。
これで私の頭を打ち抜けっていうの？そんな簡単なことで、そんなにも簡単なことだったの？なら私は今まで何を積み上げてきたの？
大勢の人間の罪を背負った。その大勢の罪を今こそ己を生贄に捧げることで見そぐのだ。その勇気はたたえられ、神の座の末席を許すであろう。
何よそれ。私にトカゲの尻尾を引き受けて全員の責任を押し付けられて死ねと、そういうの？ふざけない。そんなの嫌よ。絶対に嫌。
何故に嫌か。常に人の世で和を求めるためには一つの汚れに一つの生贄がいる。それが人の世のことあり。罪のみそぎの方法ではなかったのか。そなたの望む未来に一人の少女を生贄に求めたのはそれを理解していたからではなかったのか。
わかんない話はやめて。私には何のことかさっぱりわからないわ。
Oh, how lost you were.
それがわからぬなら、所詮は人の身。神の座を求めた身の程知らずを食いよ。
食いるわ。他の人の責任をかぶって死ぬのが神になる道なんて絶対嫌。私は人間でよかった。ただただ人間として生きていいよって、生きてもいいよって。それなのになんでこんなことに。
ならばこの度の人の世の汚れをいかにして払うのか、いかにして代価を払うのか。
なんでよ。なんで誰かが責任を取らされなくちゃならないのよ。誰もが相手を利用してジョーカーを押し付け合って自分の手を汚さずに済むように立ち回り、それが人の世なの？違う。だってお父さんやお母さんやおじいちゃんと生きてきた日々にはそんなのなかったもん。みんながみんな誰にもジョーカーなんか押し付けなかった。どうしてその世界から私はこぼれてしまったの？どうして私はこんな雨の山中を泥まみれになりながら一人でさまよってるの？私はどうしてこれが私の罪に対する。分かってた。うっすらと気づいてた。何か大切なものを間違えて、でもそれを認めたくなくて取り返しがつかないところにまで来て初めて後悔した。報いなのね。
人の世はそなたに罪のみそぎを求めるだろう。この度の汚れはそなたを生贄に捧げることで払われよう。それが人の世の払い方なれど、我は人にあらず人を超える存在にして欠けたる輪を埋める存在、人の罪を許す存在。人の罪は人には許せぬ。我こそが人の子の罪を許そう。
There's a lot to unpack here. I forgive you. Demanding a sacrifice be paid for sins isn't the way of the human world, it's the way of demons. So this is not the world of man. This is a world of demons created by man and the demons infesting them. Humans cannot end that way of their world, so I became a god to grant that end. It was over 1,000 years of pain. I wanted to come down from this place. I desired a world where God doesn't need to make peace. And finally, after 1,000 years' time, I have found that fragment. Come, child of man, I will forgive your sins in my name. Kneel and repent. Ask for forgiveness. Then you shall receive it. God will forgive you. God will forgive your human sins. The god in the form of a little girl walked up to me and reached out. As I knelt and looked down, she touched my head. This is Oyashiro-sama right here, man. You're getting that treatment. Straight up. Alrighty. Gamers, I think we can end the episode here, maybe. I'm feeling pretty confident in the length of this one. Holy shit. I don't know how much more we have to go anymore. It's getting hard to keep track with these long-ass episodes, but I want to say that we're coming to the end. I'm pretty sure we are, based on what I was told a few episodes ago, and from the looks of it, I mean, everything is wrapping up. There's really not much else to do, or not much else to happen. We are truly just wrapping up everything, and that'll be it. And there's a lot to unpack here. First off, I wanted to talk about Okanogi. Very strange character who is just doing his job, but at the same time, I mean, we've come to learn that he is a man who just, you know, he wanted to be more in a combat unit and everything. He is a man who likes to fight, straight up. And he's also a commander, so there's a lot of respect. I think it was very honorable in a way, the way that he challenged Mion, because he already knew that he'd lost. There was no point in killing the children. He could have, most definitely, but that would make him even less human than he probably already was, based on the, you know, shady position that he was in. So I gotta say, I kind of like Okanogi's character, despite him being an antagonist. he's a very interesting case. And all I really want to say here with Takano is that, I mean, we knew from the beginning that she was used, straight up. I mean, well, not the beginning, but we knew for a fact from the fragments that, yeah, she was being used. The strings were being pulled, that sort of deal. And, you know, it's sad to see that she really, in the end, had nobody. She thought that she did. She thought at least Okanoki was on her side, but nope, 100% not. Not at all, and we really saw that throughout this episode. Just how he was not really taking any of her shit. And it's sad, in a way, to see that she is fallen. I am indeed feeling bad for the enemy, for the antagonist. And I think the first time I felt this way was with Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the final book or season. You kind of just watch as things kind of happen to her, her situation, how things are unfolding, the position that she's thrown in, and how she just crumbles as a person until the very end. You actually do sympathize for her. It's very interesting, and that's how you know that the storytelling and the character development really makes, like, it's good when you actually care for an enemy like that, really, truly. You don't have to agree with, you know, their goal, but when they're humanized like that, you gotta feel something, right? That's how I feel, at least. So, I don't think she'll kill herself. Hopefully not. I hope she just surrenders, and everything just kind of gets wrapped up in the next episode. Hopefully it's just that. And maybe the next episode will be the last one then. I don't know what else is to happen. I'm kind of worried that we're going to be losing Hanyu, to be honest. I have a strong feeling that she will be disappearing because her job has been completed. But you know what? We'll see what happens next time. We'll see kind of how everything plays out. I've been sitting here for an hour and a half, so let's call it an episode. Thank you all for watching this long one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.